Ready?
Yep, I'm on.
You're on. Go ahead.
Huh?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, let's go on the record. Tammy, right?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, Tammy, let's go on the record. It's September 1st, 2021. Am I audible, Susan?
Yes.
Okay. Record reflect the board is here to convene and consider its docket, beginning with its first remote hearing by agreement of the parties. This is a Division of Industrial Compliance case, and it is case number 21-0073, and it deals with the Ohio Department of Transportation. It's Pickaway County facility, building C in Circleville, and the division's adjudication number is noted on dockets. This is I guess we're really reconvening to consider a condition that had been imposed by a prior variance that had been granted. Let's have an introduction of the parties first, beginning with the appellant representatives from ODOT. State your full name, spell your last name, and put it in the capacity by which you're here in a representative way. We'll do the same thing. The division building official. I'll have an oath administered. I'll go over a couple ground rules here because we're down one particular board member, and we've got some other considerations to pull on the record before the case. So go ahead, Mr. Carpenter.
Well, thank you. My name is Kyle Carpenter. Last name is spelled Carpenter, and we are the architect of record for the project, representing the Ohio Department of Transportation.
Okay, and is Mr. Moser going to participate?
I do not believe so, no.
I think I heard you say that. And Mr. Eden?
Good morning, Jeff Eaton, EATON, Chief Building Official for the Division of Industrial Compliance.
Okay, very good. If each of you would stand where you are situated, raise your right hand. Tammy, would you administer it?
Yes. Do you solemnly swear the information you're about to give in this board meeting is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Okay, the first order of business is that we do not have our pipe fitter plumbing representative, Neil Gehring, here, which means we're a board of 4. You would have the right, Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Eaton, to have this consideration deliberated upon by a board of 5. Notwithstanding that, are you willing to proceed, each of you, board of 4?
This is Kyle. We are willing to proceed.
Jeff?
Yes, sir, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, and then just in some little board chatter before we got on the record, I understand that neither Brad Smith nor Porter Chip Welch, participated during the original hearing, and therefore they didn't deliberate with respect to that. Chip in or Brad, any further comments on that?
No. Mr. Chair, the record does show that Mr. Welch did vote on that one.
Okay, my apologies, sir.
Sorry.
Probably voted in abstention. What about that? No,
That's a proxy vote. Fake news.
a proxy vote. All right. Well, so Brad, you have, well, let me ask this, Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Eaton, you want us to proceed and vet this condition that was imposed as a board of 3, or any objection to having Mr. Smith weigh in at this point in time?
This is Kyle. I have no objection to any board member weighing in.
This is Jeff. No objections as well. Mr. Smith.
Are you okay participating? Sure. Okay, very good. All right, Mr. Carpenter, you have the floor.
All right, this has to do with our Building C adjudication variance request that was granted with several conditions from our last hearing. Since our last hearing, and actually prior to our hearing, since we've been through this process many times before, we have attempted to reach out to the local fire jurisdiction, the fire chief of that jurisdiction. We actually have correspondence, which I believe would have been forwarded to you as part of this hearing, dating back to May 5th, which of course was prior to the date of our hearing, Just having gone through this process many times before, we knew that this process was going to have to start. So we always started early, even before the hearing, to make sure that, or try to absolve any issues before they are presented. So we've had many times we've tried to reach out to Chief Brown, who is the fire chief at the Pickaway Township Fire Department. Through this process, we've learned that he is a volunteer fire chief and actually works third shift. So very rarely does he make an appearance or return phone calls unless it's really something truly critical. So with correspondence dating back to May 5th, we spent about a month and a half trying to get a hold of him with no success. So we contacted other officials at the fire station, as well as the state fire marshal, to get assistance from them. We are actually able to get a hold of Mr. Lane, Mr. Doug Lane from the state fire marshal, who's an inspector there, who said that he would still not be able to weigh in, but he would try to reach out to the Fire Chief Brown and was able to make contact. And we were able to set up a meeting where he was not able to attend. One of his lieutenants was able to attend, and we kind of discussed the generals, but again, the lieutenant said that the fire chief is the one that will have to weigh in and provide that letter of no objection. They said that they would get that letter from him in a week to 2 weeks. We followed up. There was no getting a hold of him. Apparently, they still were not able to reach him. Was not able to provide a letter. So we continued to reach out to him, and then we kind of tried to circumvent him by going to the Pickaway Township trustees directly and see if they could initiate anything. You will also have received a call log that shows how many times we tried to reach out to the trustee's office, which was fruitless. Then we reached out to all the individual trustees. A lot of them were not responsive on their phones as well, until we reached a retired trustee of 6 years who was able to get us in contact with a current trustee. That current trustee was able to reach out to, was not able to reach out to the Fire Chief Brown either. And to this date, still has not returned any correspondence from him. Following that phone call, we did actually try to call him at 1, 2, and 3 a.m. on several occasions with no success. So we have pretty much exhausted all efforts that we know of in order to get a hold of Fire Chief Brown. So at this time, before I say that, the state fire marshal also said that they believe that they should not be the ones weighing in regardless of what the situation is. They want to leave that to whoever the fire chief is. So therefore, they would not be able to provide any letter of no objection either. So at this time, those reasons are why we are reaching out to remove the requirement for the letter of no objection, as the fire official is unresponsive and unable to get a hold of at this time.
Who owns the property? Is that a state-owned property?
That is a state-owned property, yes.
So Jeff, wouldn't the fire marshal have any jurisdiction?
No.
No?
Not really, Mr. Chair, because they're not the department that's going to respond if there's an incident. So they always defer to the chief of the department there.
I was just looking at our condition. We didn't say for some reason, or did we, that the letter of no objection from the official having jurisdiction of response. It just says from the fire official. So not sure if that means anything. Okay, well, what are your thoughts, Jeff?
I kind of echo Mr. Carpenter's sentiments there, not with this department, but I've had this similar issues with volunteer departments where our divisions issued a nuisance declaration on properties that may have started work without plans or whatever, and they haven't complied with our adjudication order. We'll follow that up with a nuisance order. So I've been reaching out to the local departments just to let them know that they can handle, whatever nuisance abatement ordinances locally through the fire code or local zoning. And I bet 9 times out of 10, when it's a volunteer department, I either can't find them on a website or, as Mr. Carpenter said, get in contact with the chief whatsoever. So it is pretty cumbersome when you're dealing with a volunteer department. So I don't have any issues with, rescinding that stipulation the board issued previously.
I mean, it it's like trying to prove a negative, and Mr. Carpenter's exhausted about every option.
I agree.
I defer to Chip on this. Chip, what are your thoughts?
So I will say, you know, I worked in Pickaway County for 14 years and been familiar with Pickaway Township Fire Department and Chief Brown. I have no issue with relieving of this requirement for phrase it. The opportunity's been given. I think the applicant's done their due diligence. And Chief Brown used to work with the State Fire Marshal's office. He was an inspector for the State Fire Marshal's office. So if there's anybody that should understand what this process is and how it works, it would be him. And I mean, they are a part-time department. They have part-time personnel on staff during the day. So why he's not responded, I don't know, but he knows this process. So, he's been given an opportunity and the department's been given an opportunity, and I think the applicant shouldn't be held up, or the appellant shouldn't be held up because of it.
I'd like to hear from other board members, but just in advance of that, what is it that we would be doing here? Would we be recasting the variance, or we simply moving to uphold our prior order and remove the condition 8? What will be the cleanest thing if we got that?
Yeah, we could, reissue the order. Yeah, I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. I don't know if we necessarily need to read through all of the conditions.
Well, that's what I'm. Okay. All right, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason why we have this condition is to allow the local fire department the ability to be able to have input into it. We have usually taken the position that it's not fair for us to impose situation that really ends up being the responsibility of the local fire department without having them have their input. So that's why we have this condition. I applaud the efforts by the appellants to make such an effort to get that. I respect that, so I would be in favor of the condition.
And Brad, you've been invited to this party.
Oh, fine,
Oh, yeah, it sounds like they've done a good job of trying to connect with it, so. Issue varies without the condition.
Okay, Mr. Carpenter, anything further?
No further comment.
And Mr. Eaton?
No, sir. Thank you.
Well, I'm open to however we want to do it. It's sort of, want to get to the end and have the means by which we do it, I think we could probably do it alternatively, but I'll defer to my board members.
I would happy to make a motion, Mr. Chair. Board of Building Appeals case number 21-0073. The appellant is Eric Mosher for the premises ODOT Pickaway County, FSMF Building C, cold storage building at 1476 Progress Parkway, Circle Mill, Ohio 43113. The appellee is Jeff Eaton, a building official, Bureau of Building Code Compliance for the state of Ohio, and adjudication order number 2021-06-0026. I would move to reissue the granting of the variance for this case, inclusive of the conditions previously issued by this board, with the exception of rescinding condition number 8 regarding requirement for a letter of no objection by the fire official. Okay, this would be noting the no objection of the building official as well.
Okay, I think that motion's been properly framed. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the variance will be, the order will be reissued, and I guess item 9 will become item 8 or condition 8. And in theory, you'd probably have rights to appeal under 119, but I think we've satisfied that. Let me just, because I did something maybe out of order here in terms of the standing order. Mr. Carpenter and Mr. Eaton, you both consented to and maybe opted for participating virtually here today, correct?
This is Kyle. Yes, that is correct.
I'm just doing that to sanitize the record. Mr. Eaton?
Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, we stand adjourned on that case. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Let me do this because the Assistant Attorney General that is assigned to represent the board suggested that we put on a standing order, at least in the interim, dealing with our hearing processes. Realizing everything's fluid and something could change next month through the administration or maybe some legislative enactment or just any other change in circumstances. But I was given a script here. I'm not really a scripted person, but let me just read part of this and then maybe I'll ask Paul to move in that regard. But as live hearings resume, we anticipate that parties and witnesses will request that they attend and or testify via remote means. The Open Meetings Act, which is, by the way, revised code 12122, requires board members to attend in person, but does not require the in-person attendance of anyone else, whether that be staff, presenters, or the general public. I'm not sure what that means with our court stenographer. And I guess you could stay home, couldn't you, Susan? Susan could stay home under the Open Meeting Act as it's presently enacted. But the Administrative Procedures Act, which is Chapter 119 of the code, permits a party to appear in person by the party's attorney or by such other representative as is permitted to practice before the agency, or may present the party's position, arguments, and or contentions in writing. And then at the hearing, the party may request evidence and examine witnesses appearing for and against the party, and that's citing Chapter 119.07 code. So in order to address the anticipated requests of parties and futures to appear remotely, at least in the near future, we should make a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that this board adopt a standing order that permits at this board's hearings remote testimony of any witness and or remote participation of the parties via means of teleconference, video conference, or any other similar electronic technology if stipulated to by both the appellant and appellee or to appear before this board. Any such stipulation may be in writing or otherwise noted in the stenographic record, but in all cases shall be included in the record of the proceedings of the case and contain any conditions to which the appellant and appellee have agreed. Stipulation shall include the agreement that neither the appellant nor the appellee will allege the fact that the testimony and or participation took place by remote means as a ground for appeal.
Okay, well, I think that motion has been framed as suggested by our counsel. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that'll be our standing order. And of course, a standing order means it stands until it doesn't stand. And that might change in the future. The stipulation, I assume we do have stipulations that are in place that say that they can't use the remote virtual participation as a means for or grounds for appeal. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so that order of business is concluded, I think. Let's move on to our second case. Again, it's a remote case, and again, it's a Division of Industrial Compliance case. And it's case number 21-0084, and it deals with the premises located in Marion at 130 South Prospect Street. And the division's adjudication order is noted on the docket. Let's have an introduction of the parties for this, beginning with the appellant. State your full name, please. Spell your last name, capacity by which you're here, and representative way. We'll do the same with our fire and our building official. I'll go over a couple ground rules. We'll have an oath administered. We'll begin.
This is Jim Hill with Hill Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. And are Mr. and Mrs. Roush participating?
Yes,
Are they with you? Mr. Hill?
This is Dave Roush.
Okay. And is Lynn Roush present?
No, she's not. Wife is not present.
Fair enough. Okay. Mr. Eaton?
Jeff Eaton, EATON, Chief Building Official for the Division of Industrial Compliance.
All right, Captain.
Captain Mike Makowski, MAKOWSKI, Fire Inspector for the City of Marion.
Okay, Mr. Hill, Mr. Roush, Mr. Eaton, Captain McCoskey, and Stan. Raise your hand.
Do you solemnly swear the information you are about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Hill, Mr. Roush in particular, but for the other party representatives as well. We do not have our fifth board member today, the scheduling conflict, which means that there is four rather. Is there any objection to proceeding for us today as we're presently constituted, Mr. Hill?
No objection.
And Mr. Roush, assume you concur?
Yes, no objection.
I've never known Mr. Eden to object.
No objections. Thank you.
Captain.
No, sir, no objections.
Okay, Mr. Hill, you have the floor. I'm sorry.
Before we proceed, I was not sure, said that this brief preliminary hearing. Meeting, so I reviewed the record, watched the video. I realized there really wasn't any substantive discussion, but I don't know if you wish to wait. No, the participants.
I guess I'm unaware of that. So, Mr. Hill, in particular, Mr. Welch was not present. I mean, the last time we never deliberated. Sitting in, or would you rather proceed on Ward 3?
This is Jim Hill. I can't really understand what you're saying.
Well, we convened, whatever month we convened, matter was continued. All we're saying is that we're sort of, this is a redo today, but when we did convene the last time, Mr. Welch, who was one of our board members, was not present, but he has reviewed the file and is ready to sit and proceed as a board member and ultimately deliberate if we get that far, unless there is an objection by any of the parties. And I asked first whether you object to Mr. Welch sitting in this hearing today.
No objection.
Okay, presuming Captain and Mr. Eaton the same.
Yes, sir.
Yep, no objections as well. This is Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Mr. Hill, you have the floor.
Was that me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, okay. We have talked with both Chief Makowski and Jeff Eaton, and we have agreed that fire alarms in lieu of a sprinkler system is acceptable to us. And that's where we are right now.
Okay. And we do, I just want to, so we do have an August 25th letter from the captain. We can address that.
Yeah, what I might ask is that you just briefly go over the project, obviously you're very familiar with it. We see lots of cases, and have seen many cases since the last time you appeared before us. Give us a quick recap of your project and what you are asking for, just so that we can refresh our record.
I'm sorry, is that me again?
Yes. Mr. Beegan is asking you to give us a little background on the project, and it's so simply because we've had a lot of hearings, and it would be educational for us.
Oh, okay. Dave Roush can, address the voluntary, which is our problem. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so it would be, if we took and did sprinkler systems, it would pretty much kill the project for us as far as cost and everything. You know, we are willing to put in, smoke alarm system to take and, cut the cost down to do this project. It would be, we got estimates on, for sprinkling system, and it would be detrimental to us to try to take and put that system in to make this project.
Again, let me ask you to tell us what you're doing in this, how big the facility is, how many people I supposed to have.
Well,
how
what
do
we
you
do-
do the project?
The project is, basically about it's 24 feet wide. It's, like 156 feet long. But the back half of it is going to be axe throwing lanes, which, you know, we are probably going to have 4 to 5 people per lane max in the rear. There is, and there's bathrooms, and then there's a bar that is up front, okay? Which the bar is, not very large also. We also have a small party room that is probably going to be 15 to 20 people max in it.
Is that descriptive enough? Any other questions of Mr. Hill, Wayne, or Mr. House?
I couldn't hear you.
I'm asking my colleagues if there are any other questions.
Is there any food preparation?
There's no food preparation whatsoever in this. There's no kitchen.
Yes.
Captain Mikowski, the August 25th letter that you sent, is that the most recent list of proposed conditions?
I do.
Yes, sir, it is. It's easier to talk when I turn my mic on.
Okay, try that.
And I guess, Mr. Hill, are you in agreement with all those conditions?
Those are fine with us.
Okay.
I guess the variance you're asking for is to set the number of occupants to 99 versus 100, is that correct? To avoid having to lose computers. Mr. Hill?
He's asking 99 people.
Yeah, there's no way that.
Mr. Hill, can you hear?
Our sound here is really poor. We cannot see any way that there will be more than about 75 people in this building.
All right, let's hear it.
My understanding of the project or the request or relief was for the sprinkler system. I am not for, altering the occupant load from what it should be. That'd be very difficult to police, and things always change. But so my approach or my understanding was, we were supporting just relief of the sprinkler system because of the occupant load.
The occupant load, as determined by the state, Jeff Eaton's department, is over 100. We do not see any way that that space is going to occupy 100 people, but we have no way to claim that it won't, nor police that, if you will.
Exactly.
Who said exactly? We're trying to get a stenographic record.
I'm sorry, that was me. I thought my mic was off. Captain Mikowski.
Just for the record, what was your cost for a sprinkler system?
I did not catch that.
What was the construction cost for a sprinkler system?
It's an A3, I think, isn't it?
Building.
Oh, you're talking the building type?
The construction cost for the sprinkler system.
The construction cost for the sprinkler system, according to Dave, is somewhere around $90,000. Okay, the fire alarm system will be considerably less.
Any other questions of the appellant? Okay, we've heard briefly from Captain Mikowski. Let's hear from Mr. Eaton.
We're comfortable with the request with our typical condition for the fire alarm detection throughout. And I'm aware that Captain Mikowski has a few additional conditions for your consideration, but from a division standpoint, the alarm detection throughout is a good alternative in this case.
Okay, Captain, anything further at this point?
No, sir. The extra, well, yeah. Mr. Eaton alluded, I had a couple other things I'd like to see. And on the vestibule, which would be on the top right corner of the prints, the wall that demises that, I'd like to see that rated so we can protect the entire egress path. And that's noted in my letter.
Yeah, your letter has 11 points, but go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Yes, this building is owned by two individuals, Mr. Roush and his wife being one half, the other half by another individual. That space is going to be renovated or whatever by that other individual, and we quite honestly thought that that should be part of his scope. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
We're talking about one building, right?
Yes, sir.
This is one,
This is one building with common ownership, and the common ownership is an undivided interest. So both owners own 100% of the building, correct?
Dave?
Couldn't hear Mr. Roush. Look, my point is that the other owner doesn't own exclusively one half of the building, and you and your wife, the other exclusively, you each own 100% of the undivided interest, right? We can't hear Mr. Roush. Mr. Roush, we cannot hear you. We're trying, we allow the party here virtually. We hope that the technology supports it.
Thing is two.
All right, well, but can't hear him, can't hear him. We're gonna move on here. Thoughts and comments by members of the board?
I support the variance with the conditions delineated.
Mr. Welch, variance imposing the conditions that are outlined in the August 25th letter of our captain, Tom Brad. Your thoughts? Okay, Paul?
I think as long as we have this conditioned with these listed on certificate of occupancy, I think I would be okay supporting it. I would like to get a little bit of feedback from Mr. Eaton regarding the occupant load. I know generally we have taken the position that we would want to artificially attach an occupant load to a project because there's no way to enforce that. It's just a number within a file. So maybe a little bit of constraint on that item, but otherwise I think conditioned as such, I think I could look at supporting it.
And likewise, for me. All right, I heard an echo, so someone needs to mute, and we need some time. Actually, I can see if you don't need time.
Ms. Steer was very kind to me this morning.
Very good. I see that. Well, I don't normally look over Mr. Beegan's shoulders. We're not normally situated this way, but I can look over his shoulder. There's been some interesting things on that screen. All right, go ahead.
Here's what I'm going to do, Mr. Chair, is I'm going to put some of these conditions up on the screen so that the people out there can see them as well, just to make sure that we everybody's fine. Hold on one moment while I get my technology picked up here. All right, can everybody see those now? Good. This variance is conditioned on the following. Number one, the exit vestibule shall be protected by a 2-hour fire barrier wall. The door notated as capital B 1.1 shall be fire rated. Number 2, alternate fire alarm system shall be installed and maintained comprising of a remote theater entrance systems, detectors with integral heat detectors throughout the entire structure, audible/visual devices throughout the entire structure, and pull stations at all identified means of egress. Number 3, the alternate fire alarm system shall be required to be off-premise monitored in a manner pursuant to OBC 90.6. Number 4, the alternate system and off-premise monitoring shall be considered required systems and listed as such in the certificate of occupancy by the official. Number 5, the alternate fire alarm system and off-premise monitoring shall be maintained as required systems utilizing the Ohio Fire Code and adopted EPA standards. Number 6, magnetic door installed and maintained as required devices on all fire doors and connected to the fire alarm system to the satisfaction of fire officials. Number 7, all interior wall and ceiling surfaces, including exposed wood, shall be a minimum of the Class A rated as defined in OBC 03 inclusive plus buildings. Number 8, the Class A fire protective material shall be applied on all exposed wood within the space and maintained and reapplied as required by the manufacturer and in satisfaction of the building and fire officials. Number 9, no cooking or cooking appliances shall be permitted within the structure at any time. 10, no flame shall be permitted within the structure at any time. Exception for chafing cans for food in the food prep and serving areas only. Number 11, 5-pound ABC fire extinguisher shall be required at each exit and in the food prep and serving area. Number 12, if the accessory lanes are removed to create a larger seating area and increase the occupant load, this variance shall be considered voided. Number 13, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, project area, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein. And number 14, the above conditions shall be listed on the certificate of occupancy by the building official. And number 15, chief building official shall forward a copy of any certificate of occupancy to the fire department having either emergency response or fire prevention responsibility.
All right, those look like they track captions of all the conditions that he set forth in his August 25th correspondence to our board with some of the additional ones Mr. Began ran into the record. Mr. Hill, asking you first, do you want to turn your mic? Are those conditions satisfactory? And or do you have any questions with respect to any one of those? Are you muted, Mr. Hill?
We are fine.
It looks like if you participate by phone, we're muted. *26 to unmute your phone.
This is Jim Hill. We are fine with those.
Thank you. Let me ask the captain first. Captain, as Mr. Began read those into the record and put those on the screen to fire.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Eaton, are they satisfactory to the division?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion. Sure.
Yes, Mr. Chair, for Board of Building Appeals, case number 21-0084. The appellant is Lynn Roush with premises 130 Prospect Street, Ohio 3302. The appellee is Jeffrey, building official for the Bureau of Building Code Compliance in the state of Ohio, and adjudication order numbers 021021106. I move to grant the variance subject to the conditions previously read into the record and noting the no objection of the building and fire officials.
Okay, that motion's been duly made. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The variance is granted on those 15 imposed conditions by a 4-0 vote of this board. Mr. Hill, anything further to come in front of the board?
No, thank you.
Anything further from Marion Fire or the Division of Industrial Compliance?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay,
No, sir.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
we stand adjourned on that case. Susan, do we know whether we have the Trumbull County parties?
I know the building official is here for Trumbull County. I'm not sure regarding the appellant.
Okay, let me just try to do this real quick. With respect to, this case, which is our Trumbull County case, unmute if you would, and let us know if you're present. Mr. Carey, are you present?
If you are participating by phone, your phone may be muted, *6 to unmute.
Oh, I'm gonna step out there. Yeah, go ahead. All right, we're gonna take just a short recess in any event, until we can figure out, we need to have the other parties. But Mr. Slawinski, you are present, correct?
I think he's muted.
Are you muted, Mr. Slawinski?
*6 to unmute your phone.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, so you're present, and is our fire official present? Mr. Natalie? All right, all the more reason that we'll stand adjourned for a few minutes, and Susan, you might want to take a roll call again. We're off record, Tammy. Your calendar.
Go ahead. Wait,
My
I'm sorry.
calendar.
Go ahead, Paul. Do you want me to do it?
Go ahead.
This is Susan Steer. If you are watching but cannot communicate with the board, you are probably in as an attendee. We show 4 attendees. We are trying to call case number 21-0096. So Tracy, Keith, Mike, or Thomas Carey, if you are watching, please call 614-721-2972 and enter the conference ID that was in your invite of 727-510-560 so you can enter the meeting. Thank you. Hi, is this Tracy?
Yes, it is, Susan.
Oh, great.
I don't know why the video, we've been watching for over an hour. I don't know why, you can't hear us through the computer, so we've called in through the phone.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about that. There's a difference between Microsoft Teams meetings and Microsoft Teams live events. That's why in that letter, I offer a test. You probably came in under your licensed Microsoft Teams, which is your company, and you need to switch that tenant to state of Ohio. And so when you don't, you come in as an attendee, you're watching, but we have no idea who's out there. That's why I did that, asked you to just call in. So do me a favor though, if you're in on phone, make sure that your computers are muted or we'll get a bunch of background noise during hearing. Mike?
Well, actually, I'm switching it over to the state of Ohio instead of our office.
I don't know if that will work now or if you have to leave and come back in under the correct tenant.
Okay.
But that, yeah. So if you want to try that, fine. But if I still see 4 attendees, so you're out there as an attendee, I would think you'd have to leave and re-enter and make sure you're under state of Ohio instead of the other if you want to come in by your computer.
Okay, I'll just go back and leave it as it was, and then we'll just talk through the phone, that's all. And then Susan, also, just so you're aware, I have Mike Fagan and Keith from Braille all in my office, so we're all together.
Do you expect your attorney, Thomas Carey, to be present?
Tom is also trying to view it online. He's been messaging me continuously since the 9 o'clock hearing, and he's been messaging me that it just kept showing the live screen for him. So I don't know if he was just going to close that and come in through the phone system.
Yeah, he needs to, if he wants to communicate with the board, he needs to call in and use that conference ID just like you just did. If not, he's just going to be watching and we have no idea who's watching.
I see. Okay.
So get a hold of him, see if he's coming in by phone.
Okay.
And also, I don't know if you guys expect the fire official to be here or not, but he is not present. But Mike Slawinski is. So. But make sure that computers are muted or we'll get a lot of background noise and we won't be able to.
Yeah, I have it muted, yes.
Okay, great. And the same with Thomas Carey. If he's watching on his computer and he calls in by phone, he needs to mute his computer. And then I'll admit him once he calls in. Sound good?
Okay, yes, I'll have to get hold of him real quick. 1 second, please.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. You guys need to call him since I'm on my. 1 second, I gotta get into my email.
Is he in the warrant office?
Yes. It comes up in the warrant.
Okay.
I'm trying to get 330-392-1541.
Okay, what should I tell him?
Tell him he has to call in through the phone system and they're gonna ask for him.
Use the same numbers?
Yeah, which it's all on that link that he was sent. Yeah. If he's on a computer.
Yes. Okay, appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. You can call me. Okay. Over there.
The video's gone because they paused it. It's probably the unit when that door is shut, remember?
Yeah, right, you heard that? It was Tom glad you called.
Tracy,
Yes,
any luck with your attorney?
he should have been calling in. Tom, are you available?
No, he's not in yet. I would know. I admit it.
Oh, what?
Merge them in?
No, he's not. on the-
Can't merge them with
he's
that.
not.
It's gonna do. Bond. Should we get that?
Tracy, I just sent you a request to join on your computer. Did anything pop up?
Well, actually, it's saying that I lost the video. I have been in here, but the video was gone after the pause. When it went to, when the live event was paused, I have lost the video. For some reason, it keeps retrying.
Oh, yeah, he hasn't called in. And is he aware to call the 614-721-2972 and enter conference ID? I can give it to you real quick. 72.
Yeah, no. Someone else here has given him that information. I'm not sure why he hasn't called in yet, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Timeout.
Well,
Yes, we're waiting to.
I did.
you know what?
Now, this is Brown Corporation, this is Transgold.
That's how that Mike submitted your drawings originally.
Well, this is Brown Corporation. I know it's Transgold, and the original file, we did it on the book. I can say Transgold.
It's real. Real. You're on there as
Okay. It's gonna be a little confusing. Yeah, it will. From a corporate standpoint, I don't think we originally entered it as stakeholders. Okay. Susan's doing it.
I don't know.
So I'm in the president. Yeah, yes.
Hi, this is
Can you
Susan.
hear me, Susan?
Building Appeals. So, I just admitted someone. Could you identify yourself, please? If you called in?
Tom Carey, Carey.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carey. Just so everyone knows, if you came in by phone, make sure that, and you're watching by computer, to please mute your computer so we don't get background noise. Also, so we don't get background noise, but you can mute or unmute your phone by hitting *6. So if you're not talking, you may want to just mute your phone, and that eliminates all that background noise within the hearing. Once the chairman returns, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you.
I don't know if it's because she sent me another, but it's not showing.
Zoom does go out after an hour.
No, not unless you have the corporate version.
You have the corporate version?
Well, they have this at 3.5 hours, so they have the corporate version.
Okay.
Yeah, when our calendar is from 9 to 4.
So we're muted now?
No, she's muted.
Huh?
I'm not touching anything because we've lost. You have to. You were entered as Braille, you were on here as Braille, the drawing say Braille.
Understood it.
He was from all the documents.
Yeah, he has it.
Guess it doesn't matter, to be honest with you. There's nothing to.
Housing cars over there. Sorry. Yeah, it is. I might be able to work a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Open it and wander first. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I didn't. I think it's because maybe they're coming back.
Okay.
But we have everything through here now. I turned off the speaker and the microphone.
Okay, it's, let the record reflect it's 10:18, and I'm gonna try to convene to consider the Brawland Corporation case, which is a Trumbull County hearing to be conducted remotely. I know we've had some technological issues. But let's see if we can get started here, and if we can proceed. I will tell the parties in advance that we are down one member for the entire day. Due to a schedule conflict. We are down momentarily with a member who was in a court status conference via telephone in the next room. But let's see if the parties are willing to proceed in front of a board of three. This is case number 21-0096. It is a Trumbull County matter, and Trumbull County's adjudication order number is noted on the docket. Let's have an introduction of the parties. First of all, Mr. Carey, are you present? Mr. Carey, we can't hear you.
Yes, Tom Carey is here.
Okay, fair enough. And then who is participating today in terms of your clients? Is that, I know Tracy Caglick is on the phone. Is Keith Dunbar and Mike Fagan participating?
Yes, I know.
Yes, and also Mike Fagan, Fagan.
Okay, so.
Fagan is here.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Slawinski, you're present, correct? Or you were?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Is Joseph Natale present?
Can you hear me?
Is the Mentor Fire official present? Or the Warren County? I'm sorry. Mr. Slawinski, do you know whether or not the fire official is going to participate?
And we do not expect him to participate. There was a letter sent to the board previously from the local fire official stating his concerns on the project.
Understood. Thank you. Okay. Let's have then all of the parties except Mr. Carey stand. Raise your right hand, and Tammy, would you administer?
Sure. Do you solemnly swear the information you are about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I did.
All right. I'm going to presume everybody said I do. Mr. Slawinski, the appellant is represented by counsel, and the building department would have the ability either through the prosecutor or the city attorney or through some sort of special counsel to be represented. Willing to proceed without counsel?
Yes.
Okay. And on that note, Mr. Carey, if he chose, would have the ability to cross-examine and otherwise make inquiry of you. You would not have the reciprocal right of the appellants. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir. I understand.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Now the larger issue for perhaps the moment is that we are now a board of three, Mr. Carey and Mr. Slawinski, because Porter Welch, who is our fire official member, but also is a lawyer, is on a court status conference that is going to require another 10 or 15 minutes based on some hand signals I got from him in the next group over. Mr. Carey, Mr. Slawinski, are you willing to proceed in front of a board of three today, or would you prefer that we adjourn and wait until Mr. Welch is present?
Yes, sir. Tom Carey agrees.
Okay, Mr. Slawinski.
Mike Slawinski agrees.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Carey, you have the floor.
I would please call Mike Fagan, Fagan, the architect, and ask him to explain Brawl's position here.
Fair enough. Mr. Fagan, you've been sworn, correct, by Tammy, our court stenographer?
Yes, I have, sir.
Okay, Mr. Carey, go ahead. Proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Fagan, please introduce yourself and tell the board here your qualifications.
Okay, my name is Michael Fagan, project architect with Osowski Jaminet Architects, Youngstown, Ohio. We are engaged by the Rail Corporation to provide originally a storage building that was to be located on their property in North Park Avenue in Warren, Ohio. As such, we did proceed with an early ordering of the building to try and expedite cost increases, and also because, quite honestly, because of pandemic. As such, as the project continued through its process, the Rail Corporation was awarded a contract to actually manufacture some sectional overhead doors for the electric vehicle industry. As such, originally it was proposed to locate this operation in Sandusky, Ohio.
Upper Sandusky.
Upper Sandusky. And the problem we had with that was the fact that trying to find qualified employees necessitated moving this operation to the North Park Avenue Warren location. As such, we ended up with approximately 1/3 of this building having to be converted over to an F2. Originally, we approached this building as an S2. As such, for the plan review, it was noted that based on the size of the building, that we exceeded the allowable by approximately 1,750 square feet by the time we took into consideration access to the perimeter building. We are asking for the appeal to allow us to proceed with the building as we show, knowing that we exceed by 1,750 square feet and not have a sprinkler system required, only because of the cost implications. As an early budget was established on this project, we did get the fire chief was on site with us and did walk the site, and he was comfortable, and as noted by Mr. Sawinski, a letter was sent to the board in regard to his agreement to facilitate being able to attack any fire should that occur at this site, and that he would support the non-sprinkler need for the building. We also had implemented the fact of providing some access panels every 50 feet within the building perimeter itself for access by the fire department. And also at the fire department's suggestion, we included additional fire extinguishers will be located on the interior perimeter of the building. So our appeal at this time, gentlemen, is the fact of we do exceed by 1,750 square feet to allow this building to proceed with a portion of it being an F2 use.
Okay, Mr. Carey, any further questions of Mr. Fagan at this point?
No, sir. No further questions of that witness.
Okay, members of the board, any questions of Mike Fagan?
Yes, we did get some building plans, which are really not much more than metal building, shop drawings. I wish we had a site plan here, but can you explain to me where this project, or where this building sits on the site and the distance to the property lines and or adjacent structures?
Okay.
I would ask Mr. Fagan if you could address that question, yes.
Yes, I will. The actual building sits in a rather pie-shaped piece of property. It is at minimum, the closest distance to any property line would be a minimum of 70 feet, come to think of it. And we do maintain an open perimeter around the entire building, which has stone surfaces, a hard roll stone surface around the entire perimeter of the building that allows access by any type of fire apparatus. So our minimum distance, any property line, would be 70 feet.
If we were to condition a minimum distance of 50 feet be maintained around the building, would that be acceptable?
Well, the one location, you do have an adjoining area of an adjoining building that we maintain 20 feet. It does have an access corridor and a fire shutter between the adjoining building. So the closest point would be 20 feet at the one location. Other than that, it does angle and it becomes over 50 feet.
Okay, thank you. Any, Brad, any questions of Mr. Fagan?
Yeah, I have a question. You did submit a site plan that doesn't match the architectural plans in the size of the building and the location of the lot.
Yes, plans were submitted, sir.
The original building plans were modified to rotate the building slightly. This is Tracy Kaglick. And that was for the slight orientation and the rotation of the building, which was done after our original submission to Trumbull County. And those revised drawings were submitted to their office.
I mean, which one is correct? I've got both. I've got a site plan that shows a larger building that's parallel to the railroad.
Yes, that is the correct site drawing, sir.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how you can have 50-foot clear when you have an overhead electric line along the east side of the building. And then where the buildings connect, it's like a dead-end alley because of the connector to the existing building.
If I can respond, sir, this is Mike Fagan. At the rear, if you're pointing to that, that is an Ohio Edison easement. That is property that is owned by the Rail Corporation.
The site plan says it's electric, owned by the electric company.
It is an easement.
Yeah, it's an easement. It's got an electric line in it.
It's still noted on the site plan as a 50-foot easement.
Right.
Okay, you know, what's not shown on the drawings too, the connector piece there, explain that a little bit, because actually, you know, and we'll have to ask Mr. Slawinski this item. If a building's connected to another building, it's a building. So, need to understand a little bit what's going on with that connector.
Okay, this is Mike Fagan. That connector is to the adjoining building that belongs to Rail Corporation. We do have a fire shutter that is being placed on our building, and that corridor is only for any movement of an employee that would need to get into this operation. This operation will be a sub-business of the Rail Corporation, and the actual number of employees at any given shift will be 20 to 25 employees at any shift in the building.
Okay, what is the construction of the connector? Is it?
It's to be construction, sir. This is Mike Fagan.
What's the rating of the exterior walls there though, right? So that you have a fire shutter doesn't really tell me that, hey, the fire shutter closes, but if the building's on fire, it can go around the fire shutter. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. It is to be construction. I understand what you're saying there, yes. A 2-hour is the shutter, sir.
Maybe we need to pause and let's have Mr. Slawinski talk a little bit, because again, we're looking at some conflicting drawings. There's one drawing that shows it's being connected, another drawing that doesn't show it being connected. We need to know what's most accurate and know that Mr. Slawinski has reviewed it. If he concedes that this is a separate building, even though they're connected. It's gonna mean a lot to this project and how we take a look at it.
Okay, Mr. Carey, you would have the opportunity, obviously, to follow up based on board members' questions of Mr. Fagan and matter of Tracy. But do you want to defer that for a second and allow us to hear from the building official?
I have no additional questions, no.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Mr. Sawinski?
Yes. So we have two buildings on the same lot. They meet the distance requirements of 602, so we consider it, the new building, as a separate building.
They are connected, however, so that's my question.
Yeah.
They're not separated from each other, they're connected to each other.
They're connected and there's a separation via the fire shutter. So there's a 3-hour separation, which is considered a separate building.
It's zero separation?
A 3-hour separation, which would consider it a separate building.
How close are those buildings to each other outside of the connector? Does anybody have an answer to that?
Yes, I do. This is Mike Fagan. The closest point is 20 feet.
So it meets the area limit to 602.
It's just a convenience.
Maybe you need to go back to Mr. Fagan then. What is the wall rating of the existing building? What is the wall rating of the connectors and the connector structure and the wall rating of the building? The exterior wall rating.
The existing building is CMU construction with mill joists. That's the existing building. Our existing building to be constructed, the connector was designed as a 1 hour. But one point we might bring up, if it's extreme concern here, is, the connector is a matter of convenience.
What I'm looking at is fire department access. You're asking us to not put sprinklers in a building that requires sprinklers. And the only way to get to the other side of the building is to go all the way around it. The open perimeter actually is not open. And you're connecting it to another building, which, I may disagree with Mr. Slawinski here. As soon as you connect another building to a building, it's the same building.
As mentioned, sir, this is Mike Fagan again. We are willing, if we look at this, your approval would be the fact that we would eliminate the connector, if it is a objection on your part.
It's not that it's an objection, it's just that it seems like we tried to gloss over the fact that these two buildings are connected, and we only have a 1 hour rated wall. Who cares about the shutter? The shutter does us no good if the fire can go through the wall right adjacent to it. So I don't know if I necessarily want to design this right here during the hearing, but I'm looking for a rated wall to extend 30 feet on either side of that shutter, to that shutter being more than just a fusible link, to have it be an automatic shutter that is interconnected into the fire alarm system, so that if it goes off in either building, that the fire shutter closes. So these are things that, again, I don't want to necessarily have to design for you, but those would be things that I would want to see if we were to grant this. So this is more than actually one variance, because we have cases that come before us that are trying to connect two buildings with a connect just like this. We set up a whole bunch of conditions that are required for those buildings to be allowed to exceed the allowable area, right? In this particular case, you're asking only for a single portion of the building that is connected to it. So do you understand what I'm Singh?
Yes, sir.
You suggesting that this might be worthy of a continuance and a huddle on the part of Mr. Sawinski and Mr. Fagan?
I would think so.
So Mr. Carey, Mr. Sawinski, what Mr. Began has, if not expressed directly, is sort of intimated about, based on the Q&A that's going on between he and Mr. Fagan, Mr. Sawinski, is that might be some concern on Ward's part, and that perhaps continuing this matter, parties to get together and to represent something to us makes sense. We're not, but we won't continue the matter. Generally, we won't continue the matter unless the parties want us to.
This is Mr. Slawinski. This is Mr. Slawinski. I would direct the board's attention to Ohio Building Code 705.3, buildings on the same lot. And that will refer us to table 602 in the Ohio Building Code, which would set the fire resistance limits for these buildings in order to consider them as a separate building.
And I don't have a code in front of me, Mr. Sawinski, but it seems like you do. So what's the required fire rating for a distance of 10 feet?
1 hour.
Does the wall of the proposed building need to be fire rated as well?
Well, that's what I'm wondering and or getting to, right? So we're having a discussion here on the board. I might not be able to be heard over the microphone. We're able to speak a little bit open so that we can make sure we're open to our discussion. You know, so understand what we're
You can invite follow-up on your part.
right. Yeah.
See if I can find it. The connector itself. New building.
Yeah. No, that's not the right connector. Can you point us, we're looking at your drawings here, there's multiple drawings that's showing different connectors. Can you show us which of the architectural plans have the correct connector? Can you point us to the right sheet?
Detail, yeah. You don't have a dimension?
It would be this is Mike Fagan. It'd be the sheet A 1.0. There's a revision date 6/3/2019, but no, never mind, excuse me on that revision date. But it's the one where the actual adjoining building is at an angle to the actual proposed structure.
There were 2 emails sent to Susan because there were a lot of documents to be submitted, and the email sizes were too large. I had emailed asking, I'm wondering now if some of the attachments did not come through on the separate emails due to the PDF sizes.
No, it's not that we have too many. I'm looking at a drawing that shows a connector towards the front, right? And I'm showing a drawing that has a connector at the back. So trying to figure out which one.
The connector at the back is irrelevant. It's the connector that's at the front.
Sir, that drawing with at the back was the original submission that I was required to send for the submission to Trumbull County, that was when the connector was at the back. The drawings were revised to have the connector towards the front side when the building rotated.
And gentlemen, the reason for the rotation was to comply with the Trumbull County stormwater management requirements. There's an extensive amount of stormwater control here. So we had to relocate the building. And as noted, the connector is now at what we'll call the front.
It's just a separate drawing.
Well, let me ask you this, Brad. I mean, you think we should try to continue issuance or have them come back? The big issue for me is, you know, I'm okay with a variance on the extra, 1,750 square feet over the limit for that with the knockout panels. The fire department seems to be in concurrence with that. My bigger concern is, fire department has to go all the way around.
If they can.
Right? Yeah, to be able to react to anything here too. And that putting a 2-hour fire shutter in a 1-hour wall doesn't do anything, especially with a fusible link, right? So the wall would burn through before the fire shutter would even close, right? That doesn't even make sense. So what I would recommend is that for just either side of the fire shutter, that the wall be a 2-hour wall, and to both sides of that. And that the fire shutter not only have a fusible link, but also be tied into the fire alarm system.
I don't know that they can make that easily because it's a metal building. You've got a 2 or 3 foot high masonry. Because on past projects, that's what we have done.
Well, I guess the question is, do we want to try to condition this here, or?
Yeah, they were continuing it right at the moment.
Okay, so Mr. Smith and Mr. Began have been home with Mr. Smith's laptop here, looking at these drawings. And they posit the question as to whether or not he should be in a position, or are we inclined to be in a position to move forward with a variance by imposing a number of conditions, or does it make sense for the parties, again, Mr. Carey, Mr. Sawinski, to have a, it could be a relatively short continuous, get you on the docket and see whether or not Mr. Fagan and Ms. Cakley and Mr. Sawinski can meet in light of some of the concerns that have been expressed by our engineer and our architect members, and come back in front of us in several weeks or in a month, perhaps with a streamlined approach to this to alleviate some of the concerns that have been expressed by members of the board. Otherwise, let me just ask my colleagues. We are a board of 3, so it would take 2 votes of the board to move this, however conditioned. Now, 2 votes, the adjudication order would stand. Paul, perhaps you would likely to uphold the adjudication order if the parties did not want to continue the matter.
I would have to work through some conditions. And maybe, we've had Mr. Solinsky kind of answer a few questions. Maybe actually, I don't know if I've actually heard his position regarding the request for variance.
Yeah, I think we partially did, but Mr. Splinsky, what's the CBO's view on the request for variance?
We have no objection to the increase in area. What Mike did not mention is that the area in question, the building is approximately 40,000 square foot, and we're over 1,700 square feet approximately. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. So it's a very small percentage. I understand it's Price is Right rules. We're over. I get it. And that's why we're before the board. I cannot speak for the owner, but owing to the size of the connecting corridor, I don't believe it would be an issue to change the rating to a 3-hour rating for that wall. I cannot speak for the owner. I cannot speak for the local fire official. I've had discussions with them. As drawn, they are on board with it. Again, it is a volunteer fire department in reference to the earlier appeals. The fire official was on site, walked the site with the architect. It was in full understanding of what the appeal involved.
Was the fire official aware that you wanted to connect these buildings, or was he under the understanding that he would be able to get all the way around the building? Because when you look at his letter, he says, yeah, I can get all the way around the building, and that's not necessarily the case.
I think what he's referring to is he can get around the existing building to get to the proposed building. In my discussion, he reiterated what he had said in the letter, and he was confident that he could get to the back of the structure via the existing parking areas and around the existing building to the back. The access was not an issue for him at all.
I guess, let me rephrase that. Was he aware that you were going to be connecting the buildings?
Yes, he was.
Yes, that's Mike Fagan. Yes, he was.
Can we bring up a Google chart?
I guess I have a question. Which building was he talking about when he said that? It was the bigger building or the other building? The smaller building?
You mean from a planning standpoint, this parallel versus the angle? Is that what you're referring to, sir?
Yeah.
He is aware it's the angled building, sir.
So he had
The angle connector.
He had a copy of that site plan that shows it angled? Because the architectural plans don't really show
Yes.
that.
Yes.
But actually have you here tested.
And that's, again, what I'm wondering, do we just do?
This is Mike Fagan. We did review the documents on site as well.
This is Mr. Slawinski. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but the foundations had started when the fire official was there.
Yes, sir.
So the site was laid out. I mean, the building pad was visible when he was on site. It was readily apparent where the building was going to sit.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, what are we gonna do?
Do you want to continue, or do you want to try to condition this out?
Condition it.
Give it a shot.
So, Mr. Began is going to, I think, come up with some conditions. We'll take a look at it and see.
All right, let's do that. We're gonna, Mr. Carey, Mr. Swinsky, we're gonna stand down for a minute. We're gonna go off record. We're gonna allow Mr. Began to propose some conditions that we'll vet with the parties. We'll see where we go. Okay?
Okay.
Understand.
Tammy, off record.
Understood.
Yeah.
So this is the case.
if I could, this is Mike Fagan.
Second, Mr. Fagan.
Pardon?
We went off record. You want to go back on record?
No.
Okay, we're off record.
Off record. We're off record. So we can discuss it. Eliminate the freaking connect. Huh? We'll eliminate the connector. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Still
Yes.
off record.
Hi, this is Roberto in regards to the Mexican restaurant.
Hi, Roberto, it's Susan. We're just finishing up with the case before you, so if you want to just mute by hitting *6, once we finish up, then the chairman will call your case. I apologize.
Okay.
Well, I did ask you to come around 10, but we are running behind.
Okay,
So,
not a problem.
thank you.
Easiest of them is to connect. Okay. I'd like to see a number. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we build first. If it's possible, if it is. Yeah. Make it agree. Okay, that's what we'll do. Okay. That's prohibited with anything. Okay.
Susan, we have a couple ideas that we would like to present if the board is ready for us.
Let's do this. We can go back on the record. All right, we're going to go back on the record. Mr. Began has a question first. We'll see where it goes, Ms. Cakley.
Okay.
Question regarding is there a fire alarm system to be installed in this building?
No.
I would think, and I'll have to ask my other board members, but normally if we are going to be granting a variance for sprinkler systems, we would require a fire alarm system. Is that objectionable?
No, it's not.
Okay. All right. How about go ahead and some of the ideas.
Okay, this is.
Go ahead.
Yes, this is Mike Fagan. Yes, I think our first would be to provide a fire alarm system. It's not acceptable.
Okay, but Ms. Cakley, if I pronounced that right, Tracy said that there were some ideas to present. Are there other ideas to present?
Okay, the other idea, we would construct the walls in that area 3 hours. And the last alternative would be that the owner is willing to eliminate the connector.
Okay. What's that do for you, Brad? What's that do for you, Paul?
I don't necessarily think they need to remove the connector. I mean, if we want to condition it.
I think Paul's condition to include the connector. All right, just, Mr. Fagan, just stand down for a second. We'll go back off the record for just a moment.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go back on the record. Mr. Biggin?
Yes.
What I'm going to do is put up on the screen some conditions. I will read through them as well. So hopefully you can get an understanding of what we are looking at trying to do here. Variance is conditioned upon the following. Number one, an alternate fire alarm system shall be installed and maintained comprising of a remote enunciator at the front entrance, system smoke detectors with integral heat detectors throughout the entire structure, audible/visual alarm notification devices throughout the entire structure, and pull stations at all identified means of egress. Number two, the alternate fire alarm system shall be required to be off-premise monitored in a manner approved pursuant to OBC 901.6. Number three, the alternate fire alarm system and off-premise monitoring shall be considered required systems and listed as such on the certificate of occupancy by the building official. Number four, the alternate fire alarm system and off-premise monitoring shall be maintained as required systems utilizing the Ohio Fire Code and adopted NFPA standards. Number 5, knockout access panels shall be installed every 50 linear feet around the structure to the satisfaction of the fire official. Number 6, additional fire extinguishers shall be added throughout the building to the satisfaction of the fire official. Number 7, the exterior walls of the connector structure shall provide a minimum 2-hour fire resistance rating. Number 8, the exterior walls of the new building structure adjacent to the connector structure shall provide a minimum 2-hour fire resistance rating extending 30 feet to each side. Number 9, the 2-hour fire shutter shall be connected into the fire alarm system for both buildings and shall automatically close upon activation of either fire alarm system. The 2-hour fire shutter shall also be provided with a fusible link. Number 10, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, project area, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein. And number 11, the chief building official shall forward a copy of any certificate of occupancy to the fire department having either emergency response or fire prevention responsibility.
Okay, those are proposed at this point in time, and we're open to have those vetted among the parties, Mr. Carey and Mr. Slawinski. So maybe Mr. Fagan, any comments or thoughts with respect to those proposed 11 conditions?
This is Mr. Slawinski. And this would be a question if the board could please direct it to Mr. Fagan. Michael, is the corridor part of the required egress for the building?
You can answer that, Mr. Fagan.
No, it is not.
Okay. Then there's no objections from Trumbull County on the stipulations.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fagan, comments, thoughts?
We would like to go off record for a moment. The owner would like to speak to him.
That's fine. Absolutely, no problem. We'll go off record.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You might mute.
I don't want that fire shutter coming down, blocking egress.
So I guess it doesn't matter.
I like some fire shutters. They only close when the fire.
Yes.
We're back on. This is Mike Fagan.
Okay, let's go back on the record, Tammy, please. Okay, Mr. Fagan.
One question was raised by the owner was relative, I think a comment was made about the fire alarm system. You were talking about a fire alarm system in our new structure, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, we want to confirm, is it going to be required in the existing building and the new, or only the new building?
It's okay, in my opinion. I have to ask the rest of my board members. In the new structure is okay with me. We were not aware whether or not the existing building had a fire alarm.
It does not, sir.
So if there's a fire in the existing building, that shutter won't close?
Sorry, we didn't hear that, sir.
If there was a fire in the existing building, would the shutter close?
This is Mike Fagan. I believe there's ways to do that. I don't want to go on record with that till I could research this with our engineering staff. Right, that's totally understandable with the comment made there.
Okay, Mr. Fagan, any other questions or comments with respect to the proposed 11 conditions?
Okay, the other condition that the owner mentioned is the fact if we look at all these items, which we totally understand that if in fact we find that these costs could be cost prohibitive based on the budgets that were established, that is the board acceptable that that corridor would be eliminated, the connector, I should say, if it was eliminated?
If you change anything other than what you presented before us, you would have to appear back before the board. We can't motion out into the future what may or may not be done.
Understood, sir.
All we can consider is what's before us. But I will tell you this, as one of the board members here, I would not grant a variance for the sprinkler system without a fire alarm system, no matter what, connector or no connector.
Understood. It's Mike Fagan. We have reviewed this information. The owner is aware of it. The conditions are acceptable to us.
Okay.
And for the record, you may be seeing I'm modifying it on the screen as we are here. Modifying condition number 1 to read, an alternate fire alarm system shall be installed and maintained comprising of a remote annunciator at the front entrance, system smoke detectors with integral heat detectors throughout the entire structure, audible/visual alarm notification devices throughout the entire structure, and the connector structure, and pull stations at all identified means of egress. Actually, let me modify that one more time. So, system smoke detectors with integral heat detectors throughout the entire structure and connector structure, and then that is it. So basically, what I'm trying to modify with that is that we want the fire alarm system in the new building and the connector structure, so that if there is a fire incident in the existing building, that if the smoke got into the connector structure, we don't have to rely upon the fire proceeding all the way to the fire shutter before it would activate. So if we had alarm notification devices in the connector structure, that the fire shutter would automatically close. Also noted, because we only have the fire alarm system in the new building, condition number 9 shall read, the 2-hour fire shutter shall be connected into the fire alarm system and shall automatically close upon activation of the fire alarm system. The 2-hour fire shutter shall also be provided with a fusible link.
All right, let's pause there for a minute. Mr. Began has modified condition 1 that was originally read put on the screen, and he's done the same with condition 9. And before I were to entertain a motion, I want to make sure that the parties understand those modifications and are agreeable to them.
This is Mike Fagan in the connector. We're talking about the heat and smoke detection in the connector, which would activate the door. As noted, that should a fire start in the existing building. Understood, sir.
Okay, Mr. Swinsky?
We understand completely, no objection.
Perfect. We are to a point where I would entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, for Board of Building Appeals case number 21-0096, the appellant is Keith Dunbar for Brawl Corporation. for the premises Brawl Corporation at 2610 North Park in Warren, Ohio, 44483. The appellee is Michael Sawinski, building official for the Trumbull County Building Department, and adjudication order number 2021-5-2-2-42-01891. I move to approve variance subject to the conditions previously read in the record and with no objection of the building and fire officials.
Okay, I think that motion's been duly presented. Is there a second, Brad?
Second.
Okay. Just for the record, Mr. Welch has returned, but most of the time that he's been here, we were off record. So I think he'll just go ahead and abstain. All those in favor of the motion, as presented by Mr. Began, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstain?
I'll abstain.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, by a 3-0 vote, by a 3-0 with one abstention, the variance is granted on those 11 conditions as modified subsequent to their original presentation. Mr. Carey, anything further from your clients?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Sawinski, anything from Trumbull County?
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We stand adjourned on that hearing. Tammy, do you need a break?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any members of the board need a break?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, we're going to move on to case, appreciate your indulgence. I do recognize it's 11:15 and this case was set for 10:30 on our docket. It's case number 21-0100. I do understand based on, when we're off the record, some of the individuals have appeared. I know Mr. Decker's been on for a while. Mr. Decker, are you still with us? Yes, I see you there.
I am, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. And then who was here present on behalf of the restaurant, of the appellant?
This is Jason Percival.
One more time, please.
This is Roberto Pinedo, the architect. I am here with Arturo Martinez, the owner.
Okay. Anybody else with you, Mr. Pinedo and Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
No. Okay. Okay, I would ask that Mr. Pinedo, Mr. Martinez, and Mr. Decker, if you would, wherever you're situated, stand, raise your right hand. I'd ask our court stenographer, Tammy, to administer an oath.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Mr. Decker, it looked like you were going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. You had it. All right.
Yes, I started it.
All right, oath is administered. So Mr. Pinedo and Mr. Decker, the Board of Building Appeals is designed to be a board of 5 members. One of our members is not here due to a scheduling conflict. It was unavoidable. So now we're a board of 4. Any objection to proceeding in front of us as constituted now, or would you prefer to have the matter continued until we become a board of 5? Mr. Pinedo?
Jim Decker, no objection.
Okay, Mr. Pinedo?
No objections.
Fair enough. Mr. Pinedo, you have the floor.
Okay, so here we are in front of the board asking for we're asking for the request to have the fire shutter in between the buildings for the addition that we have proposed as part of the Ruby Tuesday existing restaurant to build an outdoor patio with a canopy. We are asking the board if we could add fire alarm system and smoke detectors to compensate for the comments of the building commissioner.
Questions of Mr. Pinedo?
Yeah, does the existing restaurant space already have a fire alarm system?
It does not.
So does that mean the fire alarm system would only be for the canopy space? Or you're going to
So
alarm?
what we
building?
will do is we will be adding a new fire alarm system for the restaurant that will be also tied to the proposed outdoor patio.
Thank you.
Any questions of the appellant, the architect, Brad?
No, I think I understand it pretty well.
Mr. Decker, what's the building department's position?
Well, we have an existing Ruby Tuesday restaurant that was built without a fire suppression system back years ago, and its occupant load did not require a fire alarm system at that time. So it's an existing building, adding on to an existing building. The addition is supposed to comply with the code. There's a provision in Chapter 34 that would allow a fire barrier to be installed between the existing building wall and the new canopy addition. However, there's existing glazing along the Ruby Tuesday's existing restaurant that would kind of, in my mind, even make it kind of impractical to put a bunch of fire shutters up and things like that. So Mr. Pinedo offered a trade-off for a fire alarm system to be installed inside the existing building and to notify out into the patio as well. And I think that's a reasonable trade-off. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Decker by members of the board?
Yeah, I support the variance, and the fire officials opined as well that he supports it, so it makes sense.
Brad?
Yes, I agree.
And Paul?
I agree. I mean, we have an existing restaurant that, if it were to be built today, would require probably a sprinkler system. So we're taking an existing space and making it a little bit safer by adding a fire alarm system. Added benefit is people get to sit outside. I think it is a fair trade.
Okay, I concur. You want to read the proposed condition?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Let me throw those up on the screen so people can read along.
So, Mr. Pinedo, can you see the screen, or are you on telephone?
I am on the telephone. I cannot see the screen.
Okay, so just listen carefully.
This variance is conditioned upon the following. Number one, an alternate fire alarm system shall be installed and maintained, comprising of a remote annunciator at the front entrance, system smoke detectors with integral heat detectors throughout the entire structure, and covered area of the patio, audible/visual devices throughout the entire structure and the exterior patio, and pull stations at all identified means of egress. Number two, the alternate fire alarm system shall be required to be off-premise monitored in a manner approved pursuant to OBC 901.6. Number three, the alternate fire alarm system and off-premise monitoring shall be considered required systems and listed as such on this certificate of occupancy by the building official. Number four, the alternate fire alarm system and off-premise monitoring shall be maintained as required systems utilizing the Ohio Fire Code and adopted NFPA standards. Number five, this variance is granted based on the use, construction, occupant load, project area, and level of activity identified on the approved construction documents, including the maintenance of all building systems and any conditions required herein. And number six, the chief building official shall forward a copy of any certificate of occupancy to the fire department having either emergency response or fire prevention responsibility.
Okay, they're easier to see than they are necessarily to follow along and listen to, but Mr. Pinedo, any questions or the need for clarification or any objections to those proposed 6 conditions, paragraphed conditions?
I understand all 6 requirements and I have no further questions.
Mr. Decker?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm not a heat detector expert or a smoke detector expert, but a heat detector out in the patio, there may not be a listing for that. If there is no listing, can we, unless you guys know of a listing for an outdoor heat detector?
If we want to add to condition number 1, to the satisfaction of the building official, to allow you a little bit of liberty to make sure that the correct devices are installed where they need to be installed, I would be okay with that if you are open to that, Mr. Decker.
Yes, sir, I am, Mr. Began.
Well, I'd ask that same question then of Mr. Panetto. Can we leave the, that issue to the discretion of the CBO?
Yes, that is acceptable.
All right, with that clarification, is there a motion?
Yeah, so what I will do is add to condition number 1, the sentence starting with system smoke detectors with integral heat detectors throughout the entire structure and covered area of the patio to the satisfaction of the building official.
Okay. I think that that's in keeping with our on-record discussion here. Now I would entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, for Board of Building Appeals, case number 21-0100. The appellant is Arturo Martinez for the premises Azteca Mexican Restaurant, dash patio / canopy at 9515 Diamond Center Drive, Mentor, Ohio 44060. The appellee is James E. Decker Jr., the building official for the City of Mentor Building Department. And adjudication order number 2021-06. I move to grant the variance subject to the conditions previously read into the record and noting the no objection of the building and fire officials.
Okay, that motion's been made. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Panetto, by a 4-0 vote of this board and based on those conditions, the variance is granted. Is there anything further to come in front of the board on behalf of the appellant?
I have no comment. Thank you very much.
Mr. Decker, anything to come before the board on this case from the building department?
No further comments. Thank you, sir.
Okay, fair enough. We stand adjourned on that case, and we'll try to call our next case, which will be our last active case on today's docket. This also is a mentor adjudication. It's case number 21-0097, and it deals with the premises located at 7850 Mentor Avenue, located in Mentor, and the building department's adjudication order is noted on our docket. Let's have an introduction of the parties, beginning first with the appellant. My understanding is, Mr. Percival, you are present, correct?
That is correct. This is Jason Percival.
Okay, and Mr. Percival, are you present virtually or by phone?
Virtually, sir.
Okay, fair enough. And then Ms. Spear, our board secretary, had some question marks about whether or not Mr. Smith and Mr. Morton were simply watching or whether they are participating. Do you know, Mr. Percival?
I do not believe they're participating.
Okay, I'll for the record, I'll ask, Rick Smith, are you present? David Morton, are you present? Okay, I see that we have Jim Decker present, remaining to be present. So Mr. Percival and Mr. Decker, if you would each raise your right hands, stand, raise your right hand. Tammy, would you administer an oath?
Yes. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give before this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I do.
Mr. Percival, we're missing one of our members today due to a scheduling conflict. So are you comfortable proceeding before us as a board of 4 rather than a board of 5 today?
I am, sir.
Okay, Mr. Decker, any objection to that?
No objection, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Percival, you have the floor.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks to everyone today for your willingness to hear this request and openness to finding a solution that works for all stakeholders. As you stated, my name is Jason Percival. I'm the owner of Wonder Cleveland store in the Great Lakes Mall. The space I have leased is a 17,000 square foot area vacated by H&M clothing store. We have no public restrooms, no party rooms, no cooking areas, or any space aside from the general retail floor and 2 offices. My purpose in filing this request today is not to contest any determinations, as I trust and respect the judgment of each professional. My purpose is to request that we explore alternative solutions to provide an equivalent level of safety that can avoid the financial hardship of a $53,000 voice alarm retrofit, given my special circumstance short-term lease at the mall. My business is a short-term proof of concept pilot test inside this mall, which has recently declared bankruptcy and is aggressively exploring creative solutions to a failing brick and mortar retail model, which has been continually eroding in the internet shopping age. We believe that my business is interactive and wholesome family fun, which also sells retail merchandise and candy on behalf of other local business partners, which can help rejuvenate a property, which is quickly becoming an eyesore and liability for the city. This is a short-term trial, which we hope will provide a concept that adds more local jobs and provides more tax revenue to the city while enhancing the appeal of the mall, which could otherwise become a tremendous burden on the city, weighing down property values and the reputation and appearance of the area. I'm an operations director by trade. I've been through over 100 inspections in my career in the city of Cleveland and other states. In my experience, it's not been uncommon that if a reasonable hardship prevents a particular item from being met, it's acceptable to explore alternative solutions that would provide an equivalent level of safety. Given the high cost of a voice alarm panel, which is beyond the reach of my small business within a temporary lease, I would humbly request that we consider the following alternatives, which I have proactively engaged to ensure the safety of all guests. Number 1, restricting occupancy at the main entrance to fewer than 50 guests at any given time. And forgive me for eavesdropping on the one of the previous hearings, but my business success actually depends on precise policing, as this is a ticketed admission business in which a finite number of tickets / available entries can be precisely controlled by the owner-operator via showclicks.com and set to an appropriate level where both entry and exit will be monitored at all times to only allow passage and egress to those who have their time-stamped tickets. Additionally, adding 10 more emergency lighting fixtures to a system which was approved for the previous tenant within the past 12 months, adding and relocating 5 exit signs for higher visibility, extending 5 sprinkler heads to ensure that every inch of the space is within range, replacing 125 sprinkler head covers to mitigate any chance of failure, maintaining the existing fire alarm with heat and duct detection, sprinklers, horns, and strobes, use of only Class A flame retardant materials, paints, and products on site, routine bi-weekly spray of all surfaces with Flame Stop 701 fire retardant spray. This is something that we're happy to increase the frequency at which we conduct this. This has seemed to be a good alternative in other short-term circumstances where certain measures were not able to be met. And the addition of an extra staff member who's trained on protocol. Patron safety is my highest priority, and I'm committed to doing everything I can within my capability of the business, providing a safe environment. However, the financial hardship of $53,000 voice alarm, in addition to the $22,000 I've already invested in a facility which I don't own or even intend to stay in, is more than just an existential threat. It's one that most certainly would require the business to close permanently. As such, in the spirit of partnership with local small business and community in the state of Ohio and city of Mentor, I humbly request that we consider the financial hardship and limited duration of my special use lease and identify alternative solutions to ensure that all guests remain safe at all times.
Okay, before we hear from Mr. Decker, questions of Mr. Percival.
So I looked at your website the other day, and I'm not, can you explain what this museum is or what goes on in here? I realize it's some virtual part to it, but what are the activities going on inside the space?
The main activity, sir, would be taking pictures. So, you know, when you refer to the virtual that you saw on the website, we have an app for augmented reality. So when folks come inside, they'll use our app to pull up what is essentially a QR code on their phone, which will then make different objects appear on the phone, and they can take pictures and then post them on social media. So, and essentially the product that people receive when they pay the admission cost is great pictures with our augmented reality app.
Thank you. Yeah, I watch the videos too. So I think you watch the videos, you get a little bit of better understanding. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
What age groups are people that come through here?
Our target demographic is going to be teenagers, but as we've anecdotally observed, it's a lot of families right now, which is great. Mostly adult grandparents and children.
Here's the question I have. I mean, outside of your, and maybe even including your opening day, what's your kind of highest reported day that you've had as far as number of people going through?
I believe going back to July 1st, we were up in the 150s, and now our average attendance on a daily basis is, unfortunately, it's dropped to like 20 to 40.
Okay.
That's through, to clarify, that's through the course of the business during an entire day. We were at 150, and now around 20 to 40.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. Percival?
Yep.
Mr. Decker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the record should be clear to know that the owner of the building is not represented here. Mr. Smith and Mr. Morton work for a management company that manages the mall. And the notification of my adjudication order when sent to the owner down in Miami, Florida, came back as unreturnable or non-forwardable or something like that. So I think it's important that the record show that. The big thing I have with this is this place was up and running without a certificate of occupancy, without a plan submission. When we went, we found some deficiencies with the sprinkler system, obviously with the alarm system. It is a special amusement building. The lighting level is low. The means of egress system is not really compromised. But this image is probably pretty reflective of what goes on in there. You can see it's not like a haunted house, but it is still by definition a special amusement building. And that's why we asked for the adjudication order. Now, Jason and I spoke the other day, and when we talked about a trade-off, I couldn't really think of one. But I did think this morning that there are two things that exist in this mall that the board should know about. Back years ago, the building code required covered mall buildings to have a smoke evacuation system. The Great Lakes Mall has made a policy that existing smoke evacuation systems shall be maintained. This space has an existing smoke evacuation system. So if there's something combusts and the sprinkler system is overwhelmed or whatever, at least fresh air is coming in from the front doors. Okay, which adds time, of course, to the evacuation egress process. Secondly, the Great Lakes Mall requires and demands each tenant space have their own heat detectors and smoke detectors. And this space already has that, in addition to the alarm system. Now, I don't believe the building code requires heat or smoke detectors in spaces like this, but there's two things there that I think the Board of Appeals in the past have considered as part of a trade-off. Mr. Percival noted an occupant load of 50 persons. Actually, there's some code language in the code that talks about that. If your occupant load is less than 50 persons, you would not need a special amusement system, or would not meet the requirements of a special amusement system. So that was a good offer on Mr. Percival's behalf. And that's what I have to say. I do have a couple of questions of Jason, if the board would allow.
Just direct those questions to me. I can't allow you to practice law, so ask those questions to me, and I'll probably deflect those to Mr. Percival.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I would like to know if the voice activation system, does that mean that the background noise can't be shut off, or that the low level lighting can't be turned off with the house lights to come up?
Mr. Percival, you can answer that, if you know.
Certainly, the current system would not allow for that on an automatic basis. That would be a manual flip.
Okay, that's all I have.
To my
Mr.
knowledge,
Chairman.
yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry. I guess I really shouldn't be speaking to this because I don't know it intricately, but it is something I can definitely find out for you, Mr. Decker.
Okay. All right, we may be at a point here, thoughts and sentiments of members of the board.
I don't mind going first on this one. It is a neat concept. I don't think anybody knows what the longevity of this place is going to be. The threshold, technically with the 17,000 square feet and the area, you could get 1,000 people in there, and that's the threshold to require the voice alarm system. I don't necessarily think, even if there were 1,000 people in there, that a voice alarm system is going to make this place any safer than it is. It's got a fire detection system, it's got a sprinkler system, it's got a smoke evacuation system. All of the cures that have been made that Mr. Decker requested for the space have been completed. So in my opinion, I would be supportive of a variance for the requirement of a voice communication system.
I would too, but I would like to see some kind of requirement that only allows, I think he said 50 people, 30 people, something like that. 50 people maximum.
Yeah, but if the threshold's 1,000, just say we need to go down to 50, I think it's a little punitive. If he happens to have a good weekend where he has a couple hundred people in, and again, the biggest day that he has 150 people going through the day, I wouldn't want to necessarily limit it that. Again, the 1,000 person threshold to get to that requirement is a high number. Personally, I mean, if you want to go ahead and move to do that, I'm happy to do that.
Chip?
I am in support of the variance if it's time limited. Just because for a couple of different reasons. Number one, the appellant has already said that if I understand correctly, Mr. Percival, you're out of here within less than a year from now, if I understand your statement correctly.
According to my lease, yes.
So, in addition, if Washington Prime Group has been non-responsive, non-involved, and frankly, allowed this to happen without any permitting process, I think, and I'm not casting dispersions on you, Mr. Percival, but to me, that all indicates that it should be a time-limited variance. Because who knows who's going to come in after Mr. Percival.
So how do we do that? So how do we do that?
Well, either limit it to the length of his lease, or set amount of time, 24 months, something to that effect, or on any change of occupancy.
Those could all be different targets, right?
Right.
Yeah, maybe here's what I would say. I don't know, and maybe I don't know if anybody knows. Even Mr. Percival might not even know, the extension terms of his lease, right? There might be an automatic extension as part of that lease. I would be comfortable with 24 months. That would give him essentially a year extension beyond his current lease. And if it's that successful by that time, and they have a lot of people in there, maybe we do need to reconsider. So I think time limited is a great idea.
Okay, so but that Well, let me ask this, Mr. Percival, if we were to condition a variance, on 24 months, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I think it would be, here's a proposed condition. Variance is conditioned on a time-limited basis for a period of 24 months or until the lease is terminated.
Okay, Mr. Decker, Mr. Percival, jump in here. Would that be acceptable to either of you?
Jim Decker, yes.
Jason Percival, and absolutely, I hope that the business necessitates this requirement, and we do get to do it.
Fair enough.
Do we need to get a letter of no objection from the fire official, because did he not?
He was against it.
Yeah, he was not in favor of the variance.
That's right.
For his correspondence of August 26th, he was not in favor of it. Or we could just pass it. I mean, no disrespect, but we could pass it.
I don't know if us telling him, hey, it's only good for a certain amount of time would change his mind. That's the only thing that I'm saying.
Okay, I think we can dispense with that condition then.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
I spoke with him this morning, and he suggested to me a time-limited C of O.
Okay. See, great minds think alike.
Okay, what we will do then.
We found that out last year. Okay, so we will, we probably will, we're inclined, I think, to impose that condition. It should not be too large a hoop for Mr. Percival, although I got to tell you, Mr. Percival, if that would be, you know, it's not Mr. Decker's obligation to secure a letter of no objection from the fire official. That would be incumbent upon you. But he can help you, since he has communications with him.
I understand.
Okay, give us 1 second.
To get my vote, I still want to have a maximum occupant load.
What would be a good number for you then, Grant?
He said 50, but he also said 300. I think that was the original.
And Mr. Decker, is there an occupant load that we could, that Mr. Percival could limit, that would give you any additional satisfaction?
I think 50 is too low. He could, like you said, he could have a great weekend sometime, maybe limited to 100, 150 people at any one given time.
Mr. Percival, would you feel comfortable? Again, we are part of the Board of Commerce, so we do understand, and we wish you to be successful. So we don't want to necessarily limit you to something that you think is going to hurt your business, although we want to make sure that we are reaching a level of safety that is satisfactory to the building official.
I believe 150 is very fair, and I don't believe would be detrimental to the business. Our average dwell time per guest is around 45 minutes. So if we limit the tickets on an hourly basis, we should have a cleared facility for the most part. There's a few stragglers, but we can operate within those parameters.
Okay, I think we're making some progress here, or as Mr. Biggin said, maybe doing commerce. You want to try it? Are you need any time?
He's in the zone.
Yes. Variance is conditioned upon the following. Number one, variance is granted on a time-limited basis for a period of 24 months or until the lease has terminated. Number two, guest occupancy shall be limited to 150 persons at any time. And number three, a letter of no objection shall be submitted by the fire official to the Board of Building Appeals and the chief building official before the certificate of occupancy is issued.
Okay, if those were to be imposed on a variance, that's exactly the way the variance would read. Mr. Percival, any questions with respect to that or any objection to those three conditions?
No objection, sir.
And Mr. Decker, the same question.
Mr. Chairman, I would add another condition.
Yes.
We have not had an opportunity to test the existing smoke evacuation system since the tenant entered the space. I would like to, the condition of that we test it and make sure it works. And the rest of the alarm system.
We have to the satisfaction.
I would think that would be part of the fire department's annual inspection process.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily, would have the authority to revoke a certificate of occupancy if those systems do not pass.
Or were not maintained.
Or were not maintained. I don't necessarily think that we have to impose additional restrictions to that end. I understand your concern, and I think you and the fire department should proceed with that, but I don't necessarily think that's our jurisdiction to impose that condition.
Okay, well, that suggestion is at least on the record for whatever benefit that is to be on the record. Mr. Vegan has read the 3 proposed conditions that are likely to be appended to a motion to grant a variance. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, for Board of Building Appeals case number 21-0097. The appellant is Mall Ground Portfolio LLC for the premises Wonder Cleveland at 7850 Mentor Avenue, Unit 322A, Mentor, Ohio 44060. The appellee is James E. Decker Jr., the building official for the City of Mentor Building Department, and adjudication order number 2021-05. I move to grant the variance subject to the conditions previously read into the record and noting the no objection of the building official.
Okay, that motion's been duly made. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there, the motion's been made, it's been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Percival, Mr. Decker, the variance is granted on those 3 conditions. Is there anything further to come before the board from the appellant? Mr. Percival, anything further to come in front of the board?
No, sir.
Thank you. And Mr. Decker?
No, sir. Happy September.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We stand adjourned on that case, and we're nearly done here. I would read for the record that case number 21-0087, which was a Sandusky adjudication and appeal, has been continued for 30 days. So that concludes our docket portion of our agenda today. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last 2 meetings, which were August 10th and August 9th and August 10th? So is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So minutes for both August 9th and August 10th, those are separate sets of minutes, have been approved by the board. And is there a motion to approve preparation, or to compensate us for our preparation and attendance here today?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we seem to be compensated. Do we want to go through the October dates now?
Sure. I can't, I need to leave.
Okay. You will circulate some
I'll throw
dates.
some
We're going
dates
to circulate some dates. Let me announce for purposes of sunshine that our next meeting will be Thursday, September 23rd, 2021, beginning at 12:30, and it will be on Tussing in the Reynoldsburg facility. Other than that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, Tammy. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Keep thoughts and prayers tomorrow. My wife's having some surgery tomorrow.
Oh, boy, yes, we'll do that.